here we are. This is our wrap. Okay. Wow, great. I'll introduce the folks here. Annette is Hungarian, and from the period when I was living in Hungary, she was like a disciple, went to our Bible school in Hungary, and just amazing woman with a discipleship mind and heart. And we have Andrea back there, right? Andrea? Okay, another Magyar is harmadik, third one too. Okay, is Julian. Ő beszél magyarul is. Yeah, that's great. We have three people that can speak Hungarian back there, and Annette. And Annette joined Pastor Mati and the team to Saudi Arabia. I'm sorry, Oman.
It's okay.
Yeah, same thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, and another one over here. Oh, Erica. Is that Bill and Erica? Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow, we're all gathering.
Hungarians, why are you so far there?
And, you know, Bill and Erika are amazing members of our church here, really precious people. And then we have Pastor David Moore, who has done so much with his church and sending people here to go to Bible school. We have Abel over here from Cincinnati, who's planning to move here to go to Bible school. Greg from Las Vegas, right? Greg, are you still from Las Vegas? What? Cleveland, okay. Is it Greg? Okay. Do you know, a couple of weeks ago, I thought about you, and I said, I wonder if Greg is coming. And here he is. It means a lot, really. Thank you for that. Pastor David Moore, and then Pastor Monty, who spoke tonight. So what's our theme? What do we want to talk about, Pastor? And you really spoke profoundly and importantly about missions and our responsibility to think missions and support missions. So do you want to say more about that?
Yes, of course I want. There's like, you know, there's this like you probably noticed, there's that dilemma, like, you know, when you are a missionary and you have a call to be a missionary and God gives you everything that is needed for it. So like with any gift or any, like maybe we would call it a charisma to be a missionary, it's like a spiritual gift. So whenever you have one, you cannot really project that on others and thinking that they should have the same. And like having a vision, for example, if God gives you a vision, you cannot assume that everyone else sees that vision and is kind of, you know, organizing their life accordingly. And especially, I actually would like to hear from both of you and her also. I mean, as a theme, I think I would like to hear about the specific call for pioneering missions, because it is a certain kind of a call and maybe a certain gift also, and it's not very common. Yeah, so it can be kind of lonely in many ways, but it doesn't disturb you because you have heard from God and you continue without any too much encouragement also, because you have to have that resource, God as your resource, and you have to have that realization that God really called me in the first place. And I return back to that call and I say, sometimes I question, like, did I even hear from God? Like anyone would do that, but especially when you are in a place where you don't see like fast growth, you don't see like multitudes to come to Christ, and sometimes I say that to myself, like, when I'm in a place where I don't see a lot of people come to Christ, and we think that maybe this is useless or maybe this is not needed. And then I think about my church back home in Finland, where we have all freedom to preach and all freedom to give out literature and so on. But it's not a common thing for us to have new people in the church either. Like, it's a victory if we have 10 new people a year in the church. Maybe I'm wrong with this, but it's the same story in a way. Like, people come one by one, and it's going to take long time, but God gives you a special grace for it. And like I said, I could say I was 8 years in Turkey. There were times when we had over 50, maybe 60 people in the church, and now we don't have a church in Turkey. So how do I deal with that in my life? Should I say that, well, that was a failure, or it was a mistake? We should have just stayed, and but I cannot afford to think that way. I mean, I have to have the freedom to say that God moved me on, and it's up to God. But I don't want any of our churches to die and disappear from the map. I think one of the things I remember Pastor Sala once said, when our church in Stockholm was really struggling and very small, like less than 10 people maybe, and we were talking about it. I mean, I don't know why we were talking, but I remember you said, you just had like this clear vision. You said, I just don't want that church to disappear. And there we have, an amazing church in Stockholm today. And we have some churches that have not continued, like Iceland or Norway or places like that. And we kind of have to deal with that somehow in our minds and in our understanding that should we have done, maybe not that should we have done things differently, but yeah, I mean, what do you say about that? Yeah.
What a good theme. Before I comment, I wanted to give a shout out to different people here. Like we have Bree over here, been a missionary in Chile, right? We have Pastor Tim Flint, who is an incredible guy right there. Years in Hungary. Amazing guy, that guy. And your brother is awesome. Pastor Jim back there, who's a spiritual giant. Amazing. My sister Mary right here. That's my sister. Yeah, I know. And Cynthia, my other sister. And then the guy in the end, I'm not sure who he's related to. But I mean, that's amazing. And Dana lives in Singapore. And let's see, Philip and Rebecca were living in Romania for a couple of months. I would say this audience, I mean, we're like mission. Nathan, for 2 days, Nathan, I've been thinking, I got to get together with you and encourage. You can encourage me, and I can encourage you. You're an amazing guy. I love you very much, and what you do in by faith in Finland is amazing. You and Bensku, you're a great team. And Jambor, we're totally with you and what you're going to do over there. God knows. We'd be patient. Pastor Sam Wyman right here. He was a missionary in Hungary, married a Russian. You know this family, Pastor Monty. Yes. Yeah, he has a heart of faith and love, does amazing. So we have a good group of people here in the Lord. Praise God. Okay, so do you sit next to somebody that you can talk to? Because in our wrap, we'll do that a little bit if you want. Okay, this is the first thing. What is the operational will of God, what is the permissive will of God, right? Permissive will, operational will. What's the geographical will of God? So turn to your neighbor and talk about that. What's the permissive will of God, the operational will of God, and then the geographical will of God? If you guys know so much, then go ahead. You know the answers? Well, you're great. Do you speak Arabic? You do? Do you speak much Arabic?
No.
No, really?
I spoke in the beginning more, but the longer I'm there, the less I speak. It's interesting, yeah.
Well, with old people, that's normal. The less I speak.
Old people.
I found that I
used
talk
that
less.
in the beginning. I said because of my
Age.
so I don't remember, but it's not the reason. I mean, just you have to be kind of so much exposed to it. And I mean, Annette is a girl. Like girls always do well with language
They
studies.
talk.
No, because they do their homework, and so guys don't. I mean, that's another excuse. But she did the courses and so on. I've also done some courses, but when I didn't drive, I was all the time speaking Arabic
Talking.
with the taxi drivers and so. And I started driving, so that's the end of my Arabic. Another excuse.
No, I mean, you must know like 6 languages or something.
Yeah.
But you're very good in English, very good in Russian. Let's see, probably very good in Swedish. And then Finnish, that's 4 solid languages.
So,
Then you have Turkish, probably some Hungarian, and Arabic.
yeah. About this permissive will of God, I don't like that
Oh, okay.
concept.
It means,
It sounds almost like, that.
it means that God gives you, like when Adam and Eve were in the garden and he said, don't eat of that tree. He was saying that they have to make a decision. I mean, don't obey me. But if he didn't give you the freedom, then he wouldn't be permitting you to.
Yeah.
He wouldn't give you the choice. We could say it a different way.
Well, God let you get away with it.
It has because it's a theological concept. So I could be deceived to start thinking that I could sometimes stay a little bit in the permissive will of God, like a couple of weeks, and
Right.
be in the perfect will of God, like as if it would be an option.
Yeah, right.
Like, do you want a
And
permissive will
it
of God
is.
or perfect will of God?
Yeah, right.
That's misleading.
Okay, good. Thank you. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. Okay, do you want to comment on any of these? Go ahead, you can say that if you want.
No, you can say it. I mean, you can say
I
whatever you
don't
want.
speak Arabic, okay? I mean, I think you guys are going to feel like potted plants over here. I mean, why am I up here? 'Cause you're not going to be talking.
We were just wondering, why are we up here when everyone can do so well without us? Yeah. I just made a comment about this concept of permissive will of God because I don't like it. I mean, that's not the only thing that I don't like, but when I hear that, it kind of like, sets off like an alarm that because it's the theological concept, permissive will of God and perfect will of God, so it can mislead me to think, and it has done maybe that I could choose between perfect will of God and permissive will of God. That today maybe I could live like, half an hour during the day in a permissive will of God, and then the rest of which is already a high percentage if I live the rest of the day in the perfect will of God. But you know what I'm saying? Like it can be misleading me to think that I could somehow like manipulate or speculate or calculate the will of God. which is not true, because there is a perfect will of God, and that should be my frame of reference. Like that should be my desire and my compass, really, that you know, that this is how I plan. And when I depart from that, yeah, maybe then afterwards we can call it was permissive will of God, but not to count on the permissive will of God. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah.
So if we go back to that point about missions and like people going to the mission field, that's really our point. So Annette made a big decision in going to Oman, which maybe many of you know. I know Susie has been there visiting, and like how many have been in Oman? Anybody? Yeah, a couple people. And then how many know where it is? You don't know where it is. Okay, so anyway, Annette, do you want to talk about how did you get how do you feel about being in the will of God, and what is that, and how did you decide to go there to Oman?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty long story, but the core of it is that it was just coming back to me. Like now, when you were talking about the gifts, I remember standing here once, and I don't know. Anyways, and I was talking with someone, and I understood that they don't have it, and then I don't understood that I have it so much burning in my heart, and that they have something else. Actually, it was maybe a Christian education or something like, but I don't have that so much, and then I understood that wow, this is something that God gave and to my heart, and yeah. And often that happens when we are talking about unreached people groups or something, that there's such a burning desire in my heart that it's just, I guess I really need to listen to that. And actually the Oman thing, to be honest, also I thought like, okay, if it's pioneering missions, then whom can I learn the most? Like, one of the person.
You could learn with him.
Yeah. Hey, maybe you could define binary missions. I never heard that term before tonight, binary missions. So maybe I'm the only dumb one in here, but maybe some others.
Yeah, I can speak about that because I think that, you know, I mean, I don't want anyone to be discouraged by those statistics that I kind of refer to, and you know how statistics are anyways, and whoever wants to use them for whatever purpose. But I think that there is some truth to it, and a lot of truth to it, that a lot of missionary efforts from the Christian, so-called Christian world are mainly in the Christian world and in countries where the Christian faith is already established. We can say, well, it has become secularized. Okay, so it's very established if it already has had time to be secularized. So this is kind of like, you know, a secure field to work in, because you talk to people and they all know what you're talking about, and if it is a Christian country you can give out tracts and thinking that this is evangelism, that you give out tracts and now you did your job. And I'm talking a little bit in a sarcastic way now, sorry, but it's like I think that working in a non-Christian country and countries, I always feel that that should be our priority, because I mean, in logical thinking or in the plan of God, that's where God would be, God's heart is, and I believe in it. So may God correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that our emphasis in mission should be in unreached people and unreached areas, and not to say that we should not evangelize and do missions in countries that have already been established as Christian countries, if countries can be called Christian. But the pioneering mission is not just like that kind of Indiana Jones, spirit that you go and you reach to the jungles and so on, and all those stories. Like, forget about that. It's just understanding that it's a different ball game when you explain the gospel to someone who has never heard it. You cannot use that language even that you use in a Christian environment. You cannot just give them a tract because they don't read or they don't know how to read. You cannot just dump a tract on them and say, like, get saved. Of course, that can also happen miraculously, but generally speaking, it's going to take a lot of changes in your own approach in life and in your own communication, and this is in our hearts who are working in that kind of areas. We are constantly thinking about, like, not just how to textualize the message, but how to really reach people and communicate it so that they understand. And we understand more and more how supernatural that process is, that somebody's spiritual eyes would be opened, not just intellectually, like Pastor was speaking tonight, but beyond that there would be a spiritual revelation. And pioneering missions can be, let's say that you don't have to go to a jungle. You can live in a modern city in Saudi Arabia and be surrounded by millions of unreached people who come from all kinds of backgrounds. Even of course, in the Muslim community, there are hundreds of different sects and different branches and different levels of, belief and so on, and different personalities and so on. So it's not just one thing. He's a Muslim. That's not just the one thing. But there is so much diversity there. But it's going to take your presence there. Pioneering missions, I don't think can be done with the remote control, like, or by computer, internet. That's maybe one of the instruments that will support that whole process and help people who are, but we need people like in the grassroots, on the ground. We need people there face to face with these people, and I don't know, my heart has been in it, and God has not stopped calling me yet. When He says that's enough is enough, then I'm going to just sit down and do something else. But God has put that in my heart. Like Annette was saying, that God has put it into her heart. And I'm sure that there are people here who have also experienced that. And you could say, God has put the unreached people and people groups in my heart, and I don't know where it will take me and how that will change my life, but it's in a nice way, and sometimes in a very strong way disturbs my heart. And it's from God. We are here to tell you that it's from God. It's God has given you something very special. Yeah. Like, yeah. Amen.
I want Pastor David to jump in here, but before I wanted to ask you, Annette, like one, in an Islamic world like in the Middle East, where women aren't really able to go up to men and talk to them, like in the West, also men don't come up to you if they don't know you and talk to you. I remember Hanale telling me she was in Iran and she had to wear the black covering and everything, and she was with a group of women at the side room of the mosque, I guess, right? Hussein knows about this. So Hanale is dressed with but the women look at your hand. Can you hand me your hand? So they can look at the hand and look at the veins in your hand and know how old you are by looking at your hand, And then also the color of your skin, Like, who are you? Are you from Europe? Like the women said to Hanalei, like, are you from Europe? And then, like, where are you from? And who, like this kind of thing. So did any of that tell us something about it? Because we don't know anything about that, correct? We don't know anything about where she lives and what she does. You can see pictures where she will go out in the desert with some girlfriends, go to a village, along the shoreline, and just go to connect with people. It isn't like you go out to evangelize. It's more you just go out to be a friend and to connect and relate to people and like share, to love, to believe. So can you tell us something about that?
Yes, I could tell a lot, but maybe just about this picture that you were sharing. I thought of because maybe that's the only picture we have, the fully covered women, which also we have in Oman in remote areas. But then also in the city, people dress so normal, like Europeans dress like Europeans, just modest. And then I remembered 2 years ago when I first went to Saudi Arabia, and I went to an art workshop, and in Oman, people are not forced to cover themselves, but they do out of maybe family pressure or just culture. Some people just do it just out of culture. That's their identity. But then I was in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia, and people are not covering anymore. And suddenly I felt like I'm just one of them, because we were just so similar looking. There was nothing different. And I'm sitting with these professional people, like art curators, and I really felt home, actually. It was really nice. And then another thing that I really enjoy in Oman, that we have friends from in every sector of society. So I got friends who are from the royal family, and I sometimes go and have to put high heels on to enter somewhere just to be like them. And then next day I could be in the desert and be with amazing and even rich Bedouins. And or another, we can just go with my friends and hike and talk and spend time with. So we got like so many platforms to connect with women.
Were they ever interested in asking about are you a Christian or something like that?
Yeah. Are they interested? I mean, we learned also to sow seeds, I think, in our conversations. So, and from the beginning of friendships. If it's remote areas, what I like is that you can tell stories, and people are just so interested in those. You can tell stories about Jesus, and they know they know him, but they don't know anything about him. And there's so many amazing stories in the gospel with like the Samaritan lady or other women. And even these stories are brand new for me in a Middle Eastern culture. I understood more these stories just living in Oman, but then it connects to them so much. So and then other friends, yes. I mean, we have a lot of opportunities.
Well, first, I want to say I'm a little embarrassed because I thought you said binary missions. You were talking about pioneering missions.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So I'm like, what am I missing here? But I don't know anything, but I'm familiar with the term pioneering missions, but I've never done it. So, I mean, I've been in America, but just working in the field. Yes. Bahrain. That's where you want me to pray about going to Bahrain. So I'll be praying. Pastor Mate says, pray about this. And I'm going to say, yeah, I'll pray about that. I've always, our church in Malta, first in Burn Hills for 25 years and then 25 years in Malta, we've been a sending church. So my prayer many years ago was, God, as long as you're sending people from our church to the mission field, I'll be content to stay here and pastor the church. But if you ever stop sending people from the church, please send me. So maybe it's been a while since we've had someone go to the mission field from our church. Still have some come to Bible college, but anyways, I'll be praying about Bahrain And yeah, I think it would be really interesting. You've been doing this for most of your life, pioneering missions, and I've just been working the field in, my hometown for all this time. But on the subject of perfect will of God, permissive will of God, the geographical will of God, but there was another term there, operational will of God. Now, I think like three would align and the others kind of out of line. I mean, permissive will of God, the term that you don't like, and I think I understand that. It's like, that's like God saying, yeah, you can do that. That's not my will, and I'm not really giving you permission, but go ahead anyways. That would be my understanding of people that God's people kind of like just going their own way, doing their own thing, while they still call him Father and still are asking for, still have a prayer life, but they're busy doing their own thing. And so it's not the will of God at all, but he allows them, he permits them to go do their own thing and if they really get way off track with sin, then he's got to discipline them. He's promised. And we all get some of that. But if they just waste their time with things that are lawful but not profitable, it's like, how long are you going to waste your life just because you're not getting spanked? You get yourself in trouble. You're not doing anything right either for eternal purposes. I guess so. The permissive will of God is, I don't think it really is the will of God. It just lets his children, exercise their own free will apart from his divine will. But in the perfect will of God, if you're in the perfect will of God, you're going to be in the geographical will of God. And if you're not in the geographical will of God, you're not in the perfect will of God. You got to make some adjustments there. So, and then if you are in the perfect will of God, it's going to work. It'll be operational. God will be working, and he'll have you laboring in the field. So the three will align, and the other one's out of line. That's just my way of understanding those terms.
Yeah, that's good. The scripture for it is Romans 12:2 and 3, where you have your mind renewed and be transformed, that we might prove what is that perfect, acceptable, and good will of God. The second one, geographically, when the Jews were in the wilderness, they could only go where the cloud went, where the fire went at night, or the cloud. They would move and be there. And those camps are listed in the book of Numbers. Anybody remember that? Where the names of the place they moved to, they gave it a name. But it's interesting because it's in the wilderness, so there's nothing there. And nobody knows today where those places are. Pastor Ben told me that in Israel one time when I asked him. So they were wandering, but they gave names to the places. So the geographical will of God is like where the cloud goes and the fire goes. But then after they went into the promised land, it was wherever your foot goes, that's your land. So you had a different orientation, which is the one I think I want to live in, and that is wherever I am, God is there, and I can live with him, and I feel or sense I'm in the perfect will of God, because of the Spirit. So wherever I am. But that doesn't mean that he couldn't lead me by a cloud or by fire. And maybe I'm somewhere and I might feel in my heart, I shouldn't be, this isn't my place, And that's Acts 16:9. When Paul was going to Asia, the Spirit did not give him peace. And then south, he did not have it, so he went west. And that's when he saw the vision of the Macedonian man who said, come over and help us. So that was a geographical leading. Now, I know Philip and Rebecca over here are here, and I'm sure you are, thinking and praying about where the Lord wants you to be, right? Kind of, so that they're in a place of decision making or looking for guidance. And then maybe some here could be saying, like Tim Flint here down in the, he's just, are you retired now? So he's retired. So right after this, I know you're going to go directly to him.
Yeah, I have already.
Oh, you have already? He's already, yeah. So, I mean, I like the fact, by the way, we have like retired people in our church which are doing amazing like service in the body. Like there's Phil Norman and Cynthia. We have Fred Ellis, we have Fred Aruda, we have a number of people that are just healthy, you know, physically healthy, capable, and they have the freedom and the time. And our Sturge Gorham is another one. And that they're like great servants, and we're very happy to have them in the body doing, you know, it's a great thing to think about that. If I'm at that time in my life, it might be a good thing to, you know, like, how do I want to finish, or what's God's geographical will for me? So moving to Baltimore is like, you know, he wants you to move to Oman, and he wants you up in Malta, New York. We're all fighting for people. Oh, in Bahrain. Okay, so maybe we only have we have 15 minutes or so. So before we close, but does anybody have a question, or did we cover that pretty good? We're happy with it. Okay, yeah, Dana. It can be a different subject too. Go ahead. Yeah, come on up. We want you to take over this rap. Come on.
It's something you said in the beginning, but I can't remember. But it's like a quick little testimony. So when my husband and I went to Singapore, there was quite a big group. Like Laura Littlefield and Laura Chatton and Scott were there. Averill Pilvey was there. I'm trying to think of someone else, but sorry. So then Scott and Laura had to come back. And actually, Pilvey and I would always do outreach together. And because basically it's illegal to do outreach in Singapore, and, you know, it's hard. We can't give out tracts. We can't, you know, so Pilvey and I made a great team, so it was like wonderful. And then, you know, she's getting married, and it's awesome, and she was leaving. And I felt sorry for myself for about a day because God wouldn't let me feel sorry for myself. He said, you cannot feel sorry for yourself because she's leaving, and you can't tell her you feel sorry for yourself. Like, support her in every way, and, you're going to be here alone. You're not going to have your friend, but I'm going to be your friend. And so to me, this is like pioneer missions work. We might not have a friend. We might not have, like coming here, it's like I'm like basking in the body here. It's just unbelievable. But like, this is just so precious to see this, to see God like work in our own lives, to be our friend, like in such new ways, and then, ministering to people. And like you said, like no one's coming to church in a way, but it's like that sort of doesn't matter in a way, because seeds really are being planted, and we don't know what's going to happen. And also, you gave a vision about, well, it was when you were at that rap about going to different countries. So I don't know if I could say that here. So he mentioned something about being able to go to different countries, like from Oman. And I was like, this is so wonderful, because Pastor Mike sort of has the same vision about Southeast Asia, and we've been going to like different countries and seeing people get saved and everything. So like, I don't know, part of it is just like, we're just living with God and going forward with God, and God's just doing all this stuff, and it's just amazing. But sometimes we are there alone, but then God just like fills it all, and he provides, and I'm just praying for all the money and stuff like you were talking about. He provides, God provides so supernaturally, it's just really wonderful, and I'm praying with that.
Thank you. Thanks, Dana. That's. I just want to say something about the Arab culture and the Arab people. Most of us in our upbringing, we are afraid of Arabs and maybe we don't like them. But I'm here to tell you that the Arab culture is actually a very biblical culture. Like if we compare, for example, Western lifestyle or the Western way of living and thinking, that's far from the Bible. But the Arab culture has kind of, because it's a Middle Eastern culture, and it's the culture where Jesus was born in that kind of a setting, so it's very biblical, and it's very easy for us to be there because of that. You know, the way how the family function is, how the old people are respected, it's very formal. Like Omani culture, for example, even though it's Bedouin culture very much, and when we think about Bedouins, we think that they are just like, you know, like the hippies of the desert or something. They are not. They are very formal in their ways, especially in their interaction. You should see like one Arab man greet another Arab man. It takes like 5 minutes. There's like formalities you have to say, how is your father, how is your mother, how is your health, how is your family, how are your uncles, blah, 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 and it goes on. And it's very respectful. It's not like, hi, nothing, nothing wrong with that, I mean, but it's not like familiar at all. There is like that principle of honor is very important there. The principle of like, you know, communication carefully, respecting people, recognizing. Like when we go to visit somebody's home, our ladies go to the ladies' side and we don't see them the whole evening. And the men go to the, I cannot say men's room, but they go to the to the main hall, and that's where the men gather. So when we are in that room, it's always very formal. It's not just like hanging around there, but it's always like it follows the same kind of an etiquette. Like you go in there, you sit down, everybody sits on the floor. First thing that happens is that the youngest boys in the family, they come in and they serve you kahvaka, coffee, and they give you, like, you know, serve you one. Then there's a fresh fruit in the middle of the room, and then the next generation come, like the little bit young teenage boys come, and they greet everybody. And if it is a Bedouin family, the men greet one another by touching one another's nose. It's like you go very close. And I've been in a wedding when there were 600 men, and everybody greeted everybody, including me. Like talking about COVID or something. And it's a very, like, you know, tender way to recognize one another. And then come the brothers of your host. If you are invited by a man, like, let's say, like younger than me, then his brothers come. They are all from the same village, so they all come and introduce themselves. Then come the uncles. You know, then they come, they are also in the nearby houses. Then at the end you have like a full house of men with you. And then finally comes the father. And if the grandfather is still alive, he's like the cherry on the top of the cake. It's an amazing system, and they give you kind of the mic. You know, there is no mic, but like symbolically, they give you the floor. Now you talk to us. And so many times in these gatherings, because they are spiritually minded people, I say it carefully, but they are not secularly minded people. They are spiritually minded people who all believe that there is God. They all believe that there are demons. They all believe that there is prayer. They use these religious words. They always say, God bless you, God bless you. It's very common to say, God bless you. And it's easy to speak with them. Very easy. I mean, they are not arguing with you. They don't start, like, if you say something like that they don't agree with, they don't attack you. It's the misunderstanding. It's not in their culture. They are listening to you, and they think about it, and it's so interesting. I've been 12 years in Oman. I have never met an Omani who has tried to convert me to Islam. Never. Oh, once I did. There was a taxi driver who, right away when I stepped into the car, he had like all the books and everything. And this is illegal in Oman. You cannot convert a person to another religion, even to Islam, even though they publish periodically in the newspaper all the foreigners who have become Muslims. But, but it's really, the law is against that. So the taxi driver was really like getting into it. So I said, I warn you, I will report you if you don't stop. he was like, okay. But what I'm saying is that they don't think that I should become, I have not met that kind of Muslims in Oman who think that I should become a Muslim. They don't think that way. They're very happy that I'm a pastor and I'm a Christian and I love Jesus. That's the way how it is, yeah. We have, I mentioned that before, but we have a friend there who is from Finland, and he has become Muslim in Finland already, and shockingly, a Finnish man became Muslim, and he's there, and I once asked him, like, do the local Muslims really think that you are a Muslim? He said, no, they don't trust me. Nobody thinks that he really is a Muslim. They think he's a spy or something. And I told him that we came to Oman because of you. I don't know if he ever believed that or believes that, but I still think that God sent us there to, now we have shared the gospel with him, and he might have received it, might not, we don't know. Yeah, anyway, so one more question there, yeah. I cannot hear you, sir.
They
cannot present Islam to you.
Mhm.
When they give you the mic or the floor, I guess the question, two questions, is you can't present Christianity to them. What do you do? No, I can share everything from the Bible and about my own life and about my faith, but I cannot convert, I cannot proselytize. The step, that means that I'm kind of like, forcing them or like, trying to influence them to become Christians. But I can tell them, for example, how a person becomes a Christian. I can basically say everything. No question about that. I've been many times in this, when we go to the countryside, we usually go to a village. If we go to a new village, often there is, the men gather together in the evening. They have their own little place where they gather and they talk about the world, and then they're very happy to always have a visitor, whenever there is. So those are opportunities to share, and I don't hide there anything. Like, I'm not trying to secretly, symbolically talk to them. I tell who I am. I'm a worshiper of Jesus, and this is the reason why I believe in Jesus, because he has changed my life. And I was a man who believed in God but didn't know God. My life was full of fears. I was afraid to die. And then I was introduced to Jesus Christ, who came to be our Savior, not just our Creator and not just our Judge, but to be our Creator, the God who is on our side. I'm very straightforward with that. And no one has ever told me that I am not allowed to believe like that or even say that to others. I'm honest. Honestly, it has not happened. So there's a lot of freedom. And as I said, the atmosphere is honoring spirituality. Of course, very common, besides the official Islam, very common way of for people to think is this Sufism, which is folk Islam. It's kind of like it has room for everything. It's the same way like in Hinduism, they put Jesus that on the same shelf with Buddha and everyone else, do the God collection. But in Sufism, they just mix everything privately, because publicly there are not so many opportunities to talk religion. Even the messages in the mosques, now at the moment I'm not sure how they are, but there was a time when you were not allowed to preach a message because of this Islamic fanaticism, and they are afraid of that. So they didn't allow any preaching of Islam in the mosque. Yeah, but now I have heard sometimes, them preach also, but I don't know exactly what at the moment the law is about it. Yeah.
Okay, so could you say maybe anybody here that's interested, they can meet you over there at your booth, and you can talk more.
Yeah, we can pray there for
Pray and talk. Yeah. Okay. All right, that's it. All right. Okay. Lord, thank you for just the thoughts of others. And that's beautiful, Lord. We want that in our hearts, that we would think of others and bring the message of love to them. Thank you for Pastor Matti, Annetta, Vanita, Richard, the team there. Thank you. It's a gift. It's a miracle. Amen.